Having studied business strategy for 5 years, I've come to realize that there's a critical flaw in the way most channels on YouTube approach growth. This flaw is causing countless of channels to lose out on potential views and subscribers without even realizing it. In the world of business, this flaw is so understood that they teach you it on the first week of business school. The reason your channel lacks growth isn't because your videos suck. The real reason your channel lacks growth is because you're lacking a competitive advantage. To understand this, let me explain it a bit better. I'm currently finishing my studies in business strategy, a field that studies how businesses grow and thrive in a competitive marketplace. And having been active on YouTube growth niche, I realized that nearly nobody's talking about this concept. But it is such an important topic because competitive advantage is the source of all growth for any venture, and that includes also YouTube. Let's use an example to understand this. Imagine that you decide to start a hot dog stand on a sunny beach. There's lots of people around you and you're certain that business will be hot and you'll sell lots of hot dogs. But on the first day, you realize that nobody is buying them and you wonder why that is. And so you look around and you realize that you're not the only person selling hot dogs on that beach. In fact, there's countless other stands doing the exact same thing. This is exactly the same problem as your channel has on YouTube. It's not that your hot dogs or your videos are bad in any way, but there's just simply so many different channels competing for the same audience. So how can you fix this mistake? How can you acquire a competitive advantage? Luckily, competitive advantage is one of the most studied fields in business strategy. And today I'm going to show you a easy to understand framework to understand how to acquire a competitive advantage that you can start applying right away on your own channel. This framework is called VRIO, and each of those letters corresponds to a different dimension of competitive advantage. And for the rest of this video, I'll be explaining each of these dimensions and showing you how you can apply them on your channel right now. So let's get started. The first letter, V, stands for value. And this is pretty much the most basic requirement for competitive advantage for any venture, whether it's YouTube or a hot dog stand. And to provide value, your videos have to create some sort of benefit for the viewer. In the case of selling hot dogs, the benefit is satisfying the customer's hunger, providing great tasting hot dogs, and giving a nice customer service experience. For the context of YouTube, the easiest way to understand value is to ask yourself the question: what benefit would someone get from watching this video? And if you struggle to answer that question and you're unsure about the answer, then that's a sign that you should go back on the drawing board and really come up with ways that you can provide value to your viewers. Now, when it comes to videos on YouTube, there's generally 4 different dimensions of value. First of these dimensions is education. You help the viewer gain some information that will help them solve a problem that they're having. And as a result of this, they save time, money, or effort. Think of how-to videos, tutorials, and advice videos, just like this. The second dimension of value on YouTube is entertainment. And entertainment creates value by making the viewer's time more valuable. You're essentially solving the problem of boredom. A great example of a channel that is providing value through entertainment is Mr. Beast. A third dimension of value on YouTube is connection. You connect with the viewer, making them feel like they are interacting with a real person and building a relationship with the host. And what this does is essentially solving the problem of loneliness. And lots of streamers actually provide value through this dimension. And finally, the fourth dimension is inspiration. You inspire the viewer to think differently about something, change their mindset, or take an action that they should be taking. And this has a holistic, improving effect on their life. Think of gym motivation, TED Talks, or transformation videos. And while value creation is important, you should always make sure that you're not destroying value with your videos. You do this by being conscious about the viewer's time, making sure that your video is dense of value and that there's no parts of the video that are unnecessary for the purpose of value creation. You should also make sure that you actually deliver on your promises. If you promise something in the start of the video, you should make sure that you actually deliver on what you promised. Now, value alone is not enough to create a competitive advantage. If the beach is full of hot dog stands, then providing great hot dogs is not enough to distinguish yourself from the competition. You need something else. And what you need is the second letter of VRIO, which stands for rarity. And essentially, you have to provide something to the viewer that they can't get from anywhere else. In the context of business, this is known as differentiation. So how does one differentiate from their competition? Luckily, business schools teach you also how to create differentiation. And there's one particular tool that is especially powerful, and it's called the blue ocean strategy. For a moment, imagine YouTube as this ocean of different channels and different videos. But some parts of that ocean are more full of channels and competition than the others. And this corresponds to a niche that is already full of different channels that are trying to fight for the same niche. This is actually called red ocean. Trying to compete in the red ocean is not going to give you a source of competitive advantage. It's actually going to give you a competitive disadvantage. However, there's some parts of the ocean where there's less channels competing for that niche. And this is called blue ocean. Creating videos in the blue ocean is a source of competitive advantage. So what does this really mean? That's really abstract and doesn't tell you much. Well, the ocean actually refers to a combination of categories or variables that define your channel. Think of variables such as topic of the video, the length of the video, your editing style, whether you relate with your audience or try to be a credible source of information, and so on. And finding the blue ocean actually requires you to look at your niche that you're trying to create a channel in and finding the set of those variables that are relevant to that niche. Then you should analyze all the different competitors that are already competing in that niche and categorize those in the variables that you created. And finally, you should identify a combination of these variables that hasn't been done before. Let's use my niche as an example, the YouTube growth niche. And let's define 4 categories for that niche that describe the niche really well. There's the first dimension where you either relate with the viewer or you appear as a source of authority and you build credibility by appearing to be higher than the viewer. Then there's the dimension of aiming to educate the viewer versus trying to inspire the viewer or change their mindset. Then there's the heavy editing style that creates lots of engagement versus having no edits in your video that aims for more connection with the viewer. And finally, there's the fourth dimension of creating clickbait thumbnails and titles that create maximum views in a time period. And there's the other end of the spectrum where you create authentic thumbnails and titles and aim to build a community instead. So go through your niche and find those variables that are relevant to your niche. And then look at the biggest competitors in that niche and categorize them by those variables. And finally, look for that spot where there's no competition already, where you can actually create something rare that hasn't been seen in the niche before. And another simple way to create rarity is to put your own unique touch to your videos. For example, I make videos in the YouTube growth niche, but my unique flavor is putting in my expertise that I learned in studying business. And this is how I make my videos stand out from the rest. By the way, if you resonate with this type of content, then make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Now, with value and rarity already in place, you already kind of have a competitive advantage, at least in the short term. But it's still possible that somebody comes and copies that recipe. And this is actually really common on YouTube. It's actually something that the YouTube gurus even advise you to do. And to avoid this, you need the third element in VRIO, inimitability. Now, most things on YouTube are imitable by nature. Things such as thumbnails, titles, topics, your editing style, and even your scripts. However, there's one element of videos that nobody can copy, no matter what. And that element is you. There's a reason why YouTube has the word you in it. Because if you tap onto those things that make you unique, then you make sure that nobody can copy your videos, no matter what. In the business context, starting by what you can provide is actually called effectuation. It's when, instead of asking, what does the market need, you start by asking, what can I actually provide that can provide value to others? And this applies to everything we have spoken about before, both the value creation as well as what makes you rare. If you provide value and differentiate based on what makes you unique, then that really makes your channel inimitable. While you're being authentic and just yourself, everyone else who want to imitate you have to become a worse version of you. So that is how you create a sustainable competitive advantage, just by being yourself. Now, this leaves just one element left, which is the O. By this point, you probably already have a sustainable competitive advantage, but the last step is to be able to recreate that pattern consistently and with manageable cost and time investment. And that's why the last letter of VRIO stands for organizable. In the context of YouTube, this simply means that you're able to create your videos with stable quality and reasonable time and monetary investment. I mean, if it takes a month and $1,000 to create a video, then it might not be organizable, even if it's a source of competitive advantage. So make sure that you have a match with your competitive advantage. And the way that most companies handle the O is by using Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. They start by asking, what is the 20% of what we do that creates the 80% of the value that we provide? And once they find that 20% that creates the most value, they put all of their efforts and resources into that. In the case of YouTube, it's really easy to overproduce your videos. It's really easy to just spend hours on editing a video and trying to perfect it throughout. And the advice that most YouTube gurus give when it comes to focusing on what matters is to spend 80% of your time on the intro, on the first 30 seconds of the video. That is the part of the video that decides whether people get hooked to watch your video or whether they click off. And it has the greatest effect on your growth potential. But apart from your intro, you should let data guide your decisions. You should look at your analytics page and diagnose where exactly you have the biggest drop-off of traffic. For many people, the bottleneck might be in the thumbnail and the title in terms of having a low click-through rate. You should really create an Excel or a Google Sheet where you plug in all your numbers, all your data from YouTube, and just play around with the numbers to see which improvement actually increases the traffic to the end of your video the most. Why you want to maximize the traffic to the end of the video is because most of your calls to action actually exist at the end. That's usually where you ask people to subscribe to your channel or buy your product or whatever. And there you have it. I hope that this video was useful to you. And if that's the case and you want to see more videos that combine YouTube growth with business strategy, then make sure to subscribe to my channel right now and click the bell icon to get notifications whenever I post new videos. Also, if there was something in this video that you didn't quite understand, then make sure to drop a comment, because that helps me create better videos for you guys. And I'll also explain to you what I meant exactly in that part that you didn't really understand. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.